In this video, I wanted to cover the installation of a hitch. The steps to the installation can be found online and other places, but this is just the beginning of what I did here. And I just had this hitch installed on the back of my Mazda, and I did go with the 2-inch connector rather than the 1.5 inch, which is about half as big as this. I would prefer to be overbuilt rather than underbuilt, so I went with the larger size, and so now I can install my e-bike rack. There are a couple of considerations when getting a bike rack for an e-bike. E-bikes are notoriously heavy. I mean, they make carbon fiber e-bikes that are only 40 pounds, but the majority of e-bikes out there are going to be... My e-bike was 80 pounds with the battery, and it can support 400 pounds. So not all e-bikes weigh the same, but generally speaking, they're all pretty heavy. And I have 2 of these bikes I want to put on a rack. So we're looking at 160 pounds dry weight or unloaded weight for these bikes. And a friend of mine bought another brand of e-bike rack that I strongly considered, but then I looked on Amazon and it was a Black Friday sale, and they had this rack out from Cravot. It's called the CyberRack E2, and you're going to get to unbox it with me. Well, this is what we've got so far. After hacking through all that tape around the edges with my razor knife, I ended up with getting the cover off, and it looks to be undamaged. It looks like they shipped it okay, although there is something kind of laying loose right there. I don't know what that is. But I'm going to begin cutting and pulling all these individual parts out, and we'll see what we have. Okay, so now that I've extracted most of the cardboard, I've got all the pieces loose now, laying separately, all the individual components of this thing. And it was pretty much a breeze unpacking it. There are a couple of things loose in the box that I'm sure probably go somewhere. And then the manual, which is orange, I'm pretty sure they just didn't want you to miss it, so they made it orange. Cravot, I think that's how you say it, Cravot. So we'll see. So as you can see, the 2 main pieces, the part in the foreground there of the picture goes in the car's hitch system. And this other part, it can pivot up, and you put a pin in and a bolt. The pin, if you remove it, you can pivot that. So we're going to put the pin and the bolt in here, which I already have them both in. I just need to put the bolt on the nut on the end of this bolt. Got my adjustable 7/16 wrenches. I have sockets, but by the time I find them, I might as well just do this. It's going to take the same amount of time, but I just wanted you to see that, you know, it shows these 2 fittings here, and it tells you to keep this one loose, because otherwise, if you over tighten that bolt right there and you pull the pin, it won't pivot because you'll lock it. So it's tight. It's what they call a locking nut, so it's tightened down, but it's not over tight. I moved the assembly up onto a box here to keep it from scratching the paint off my nice little bike rack. And this bolt, if you're looking at this from the underside, it adjusts how far down that it can go. So, you know, in a case that it's going down too far, you can adjust this and make it go up further. So what I'm going to do now is attempt to tighten that bolt. So an interesting quality of this hitch system is that it is threaded. So even though there's a pin through here, even though, you know, we put a pin through it, you could put bolts through that, and they may even provide them. I'm not sure yet. But I also had a question, because there's this little crimp that looked like it would go around and go on the other side, but it's too small. So I'm not sure if that's something I'm supposed to mount to the car so it isn't lost or what. But yeah, so that's how that looks. And I decided to just assemble it to the car so that it'll be a whole lot easier now to finish this finish this assembly. So I'm assembling part of where the bike actually goes. I guess you call them the bike runners. And one side has a ridge on it, and it has a dip in it, and that's the side the bike goes on, and the other side is flat. So when you assemble this front shoe part, front wheel holder they call it here, when you assemble that, you know, it's easier for me to just turn it upside down where the flat side is facing you and the notched curved side is facing the arch of the wheel holder. So I hope that helps you out. And I'm using a 5/8 socket, but you could probably go with anything, an adjustable wrench or a 5/8 wrench or whatever. But yeah, I'm just using a 5/8 socket. I'm sure it's metric, but it fits it. So there are 4 long bolts that go through the main support system, and these bike railings, they go opposite of each other. So if the wheel sink is on this side, then the wheel holder on one side, back one wheel holder on the other side. And this is an 11/16 that this fits. I don't know if that's metric. It probably has a metric counterpart, but the 11/16 seem to be pretty good. So there's both of the racks assembled. Got those long bolts through, and I did snug those up pretty good. So yeah, it's a little wobbly in the holder, but I guess that's to be expected. Maybe if I put the bolts in, it'll be better, but that's almost. We've still got the center bar to put in and a bunch of other miscellaneous hardware, but it looks like the meat and taters is in. So now I'm going to put the 2 middle support tubes, and there are middle tubes here, but you see these little round, these are plastic, and they want you to put one on each side of the inside of this thing, and then put the tube down in there, and then put the bolt through. So this is liable to be a little troublesome. I'm not sure yet. I'll let you know, but you have to make sure that's all lined up. I guess you'll feed it in a little bit at a time till I get it all through there, and we'll see how it goes. So the installation of these middle 2 bars where you had to put the plastic washers in, as I said, it might be a little challenging. It was a little bit challenging, especially in 38 degree F weather out here, and you can't assemble things with gloves on, so some of it is me. But I got them in. You don't want to over tighten them, because if you do, they won't pivot. It'll be too much friction. And you want to tighten them, but not over tighten them. They both come up like this, so you can see how that works. Next go the 2 connecting blocks. Each one faces the direction of the bike. They fit right over the tubes. You can see the square thing there, and we have a hand adjustable clamp, and there's 2 of them, one facing each way for each bike. So here goes. I'm going to try to put these on. So I wanted to show you the piece that was loose in the box. This is the way it should have been assembled. It's assembled correctly on this one, but on this one, as you notice, it's missing. So I have to put this back in here, which might be a little bit of a challenge laying upside down underneath this thing, but we're going to check it out. I'm going to get it tightened up. So this, you can't access this from underneath. So you have to spin it on, and like I said, it was off from the factory as it was shipped. So this is going to be frustrating, guys, and I just want to let Cravot know that they need to have their stuff at least loosely assembled before they ship it out. So the idea behind this is that it slides for the length of your bike. So that's basically how it works. But then when you get to where you want it to be, you clamp it down. So you sort of have to, get the right tension by tightening this, and then you push that latch down. It puts pressure on this, and then it doesn't slide anymore. So that's the way that works. One thing I really like about this hitch is they give you a lock with it, with a set of keys. That's great as long as you don't lose the keys, right? But I'm going to take out the other bolt, the other fast connect that I put in it earlier, and I'm going to put this through. So here's what I removed. This is the quick connect. Not that anybody around here would take my bike and my holder, but I'm going to put the bolt in with the lock, so that's what I'm doing now. My wife's not going to be happy about my clothing, but you know what? You got to do what you got to do, right? So there's the threaded bolt, and as I said, I'm impressed with this lock that they provided. I didn't expect to see a lock, although the little sealing cover on here, there we go, I got it to work. I just had to work with it a little bit. Overall, the welds and the assembly of this bracket look to be pretty good. I don't see any real weaknesses there. The biggest thing with these brackets is you have to remember you have 4 extra feet sticking out behind you. Actually comes up pretty close to the car. You don't want to activate your tailgate. You know, that's another thing. There's just things you have to remember, that's all. But I like the way it folds up. It's very, very convenient to fold that up, and then you don't have to worry about it. So this is the rail you run the bike up on the rack with, and here you can see there's 2 little claws that go right into these 2 little holes. And then you loosen this large Titan. There's one for the front and the back wheel. You loosen that up, and I'm actually pretty impressed. I'm actually pretty impressed with this. So here are my closing comments on this product, Cravot. It's very well made. I am guessing that most of these bike racks are using velcros and plastics to anchor the bikes, which is probably about your only choice. But I think I would double wrap this. You see how this is here? This is just a little iffy to me. Like, it goes through and it latches. When I first tried to latch it, this was spun around, so don't make that mistake. Go from the back of it, but it will latch. But as I said, you're dealing with plastics, and plastics are notorious for breaking down over time. And so, yeah, at some point, you know, several years into the future, especially if you leave these things out in the weather, you're going to need to invest in another bunch of these ties from Cravot, or use Velcro instead, or use those tie straps. You can use those as well. But I'm all in all, I'm pretty happy with it. And let me take this off. You can see that it hasn't really. We're looking at the weight of the holder, and we're looking at the weight of the bikes, which is about 160 pounds roughly. So that's pretty good. It still doesn't look like it's pulled the car down that much at all. Like, we still have about the same travel as we had before, so I'm happy with that. And then this rail actually can be stowed in here, can go in here like that. I believe that's how it goes. And then you put a bolt through it, and then it's out of the way, and then you have it too. So yeah, great job, Cravot, and I hope to get a lot of use out of this product. Thank you. Overall, I'm very pleased with this Cravot bike rack, and appears to be very capable, and I'll give you any updates as needed, but as of now, everything is great here. Everything fit. There were no imprecise holes or anything like that. All the bolts were there. The product came in a good amount of time, and it wasn't that difficult to assemble.